Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Shinvatam Svagata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Vidhi Anta Stohi Abha Jani Vidhu Noti Suritsatam Nashtaprayashu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtake. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 25, Text 3 to 4. Chapter 25, the descriptions of the characteristics of King Puranjana. Text 3. Prachini Barisham Kshetaha Karmasva Asakta Manasam Narado Adhyatma Tattvagya Kripalu Pratyapodayat. Synonyms: Prachini Barisham, unto King Prachini Barishat. Kshetaha, O Vidura, Karmasu, in fruitive activities. Asakta, attached. Manasam, with this mentality. Narada, the great sage Narada. Adhyatma, spiritualism. Tattvagya, one who knows the truth. Kripalu, being compassionate. Pratyabodayat, gave instructions. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. While the princes were undergoing severe austerities in the water, their father was performing different types of fruitive activities. At that time, the great Saint Narada, master and teacher of all spiritual life, became very compassionate upon the king and decided to instruct him about spiritual life. Purport: as pointed out by Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur, a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya, Kaivalya, or merging into the Brahman effulgence, is just like going to hell. He similarly states that elevation to the upper planetary systems for the enjoyment of heavenly life is just so much phantasmagoria. This means that a devotee does not give any importance to the ultimate goal of the karmis and gyanis. The ultimate goal of the karmis is promotion to the heavenly kingdom, and the ultimate goal of the gyanis is merging into the Brahman effulgence. Of course, the gyanis are superior to the karmis, as confirmed by Lord Chaitanya. Kote Kamishta Madhye Eka Gyani Shrestha. One Gyani, or impersonalist, is better than many thousands of fruitive actors. Chaitanya Madhya 19.147. Therefore, a devotee never enters upon the path of karma or elevation by fruitive activities. Narada Muni took compassion upon King Prachini Barishat when he saw the king engaged in fruitive activity. In comparison to mundane workers, those who are trying to be elevated to the higher planetary systems by performing yagyas are undoubtedly superior. In pure devotional service, however, both karma and gyan are considered bewildering features of the illusory energy. Text 4. Shreyastram kata madrajan karmanatmana ihase dukkha hani sukhavapti shreyastan neha chesyate. Synonyms: Shreya, ultimate benefit; from you, Katamat, what is that? Rajan, O king; Karmana, by fruitive activities; Atmana, of the soul; Ihase, you desire; Dukkha hani, disappearance of all distresses; Sukha avapti, attainment of all happiness; Shreya, benediction; taught that; na, never; Iha, in this connection; cha, and ishyate, is available. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Narada Muni asked King Prachini Parishad, "My dear king, what do you desire to achieve by performing these fruitive activities? The chief aim of life is to get rid of all miseries and enjoy happiness, but these two things cannot be realized by fruitive activity." Purport. In this material world, there's a great illusion which covers real intelligence. A man in the mode of passion wants to work very hard to derive some benefit, but he does not know that time will never allow him to enjoy anything permanently. Compared with the work one expends, the gain is not so profitable. Even if it is profitable, it is not without its distresses. If a man is not born rich and he wants to purchase a house, cars, and other material items, he has to work hard day and night for many years in order to possess them. Thus, happiness is not attained without undergoing some distress. Actually, pure happiness cannot be had within this material world. If we wish to enjoy something, we must suffer for something else. On the whole, suffering is the nature of this material world, and whatever enjoyment we are trying to achieve is simply illusion. After all, we have to suffer the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death. We may discover many fine medicines, but it is not possible to stop the suffering of disease or death. Actually, medicine is not the counteracting agent for either disease or death. On the whole, there is no happiness in this material world, but an illusion person works very hard for so-called happiness. Indeed, this process of working hard is actually taken for happiness. This is called illusion. Therefore, Narada Muni asked King Prachini Parishad what he desired to attain by performing so many costly sacrifices. Even if one attains a heavenly planet, he cannot avoid the distresses of birth, old age, disease, and death. Someone may argue that even devotees have to undergo many distresses in executing austerities and penances connected with devotional service. Of course, for the neophytes, the routine of devotional service may be very painful, but at least they have the hope that they will ultimately be able to avoid all kinds of distresses and achieve the highest perfectional stage of happiness. For the common karmis, there is no such hope, because even if they are promoted to the higher planetary systems, they're not guaranteed freedom from the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death. Even Lord Brahma, who is situated in the highest planetary system, Brahmaloka, has to die. Lord Brahma's birth and death may be different from an ordinary man's, but within this material world he cannot avoid the distresses of birth, old age, disease, and death. If one is at all serious about attaining liberation from these miseries, he must take to devotional service. This is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Janma karma chami divyam evam yogati tattvataha traktva deham punarjanma netimam iti sarjana. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving this body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Thus, after attaining full Krishna consciousness, the devotee does not return to this material world after death. He goes home back to Godhead. This is the perfect stage of happiness, unblemished by any trace of distress. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastatare Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I like to seek blessing from all the assembled Vaishnavas, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to purify myself, and please forgive me for any shortcomings. So I've taken some notes from Srila Prabhupada and some senior devotees. And so in these two texts, we see the theme of Narada Muni's compassion, the futility of karma and jnana, and the supremacy of bhakti. So we are reading this fourth canto, and we're going to hear the allegorical narration of King Puranjana. And King Puranjana represents the conditioned soul. Narada Muni, who is the transcendental original spaceman, a traveling preacher, is going to deliver this message of King Puranjana to awaken King Prashiniparishat. And this is all happening while Lord Shiva was just instructing his own sons with the Rudra Gita in chapter 24. Narada Muni is instructing the king with Jnana, Vairagya, and Bhakti. Both Narada Muni and Shiva are Mahajans, and they are preachers who both have adapted their approach to their audience. Lord Shiva was teaching the sons of King Prachiniparishat, who are already saintly, and Narada Muni is teaching King Prachiniparishat, who is still absorbed in material affairs. So we take note of Narada Muni's compassion in this verse, and Narada Muni has a relationship with the dynasty of King Prachiniparishat, as Dhruva Maharaj was one of his dear disciples also. He sees the king deviating towards karmakanda and a ritualistic materialism, and Narada Muni's mood is that this king is enamored by karma. I will save him. As in our Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, we don't accept the path of Pravritti Marg. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 11, text 29 to 32, we can read the characteristics of a pure devotee. And there we hear Kripalu, which is in this verse as one of the synonyms, that the merciful devotee cannot tolerate the suffering of others. Thus, he works to spread Krishna consciousness. And so we see Narada Muni isn't condemning King Prachiniparishat. He's using his compassion in the action of preaching. And we may approach others because they're suffering under Maya, even if they think that they're enjoying. And so we start to hear more about the karma kanda, the path of material ritualistic activities. Karma kanda is performed for material rewards, sacrifices for heavenly enjoyment, and even sanctioned animal killing. In our Vaishnava position, we reject this pravritti marg because it keeps the soul bound in this material world. Even pious materialism binds us to repeated birth and death. And then in the jnana, the path of impersonal liberation, cultivation of knowledge to merge into the absolute or kaivalya. The problem with jnana is that it's still motivated by self-interest. It's personal freedom from suffering without serving Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Text 2, Chapter 2, Text 32, Gyanis are not truly liberated, they simply think they are. True knowledge culminates in understanding the Supreme Person, not just the impersonal Brahman. And so then we hear about of course, bhakti, which is the supreme path, and we receive the peace formula in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, text 29, that Krishna is the ultimate enjoyer, Krishna is the supreme proprietor, and Krishna is our best friend. Liberation and heavenly pleasures are like poison for one who has tasted bhakti. Even Rupa Goswami has said in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, even multiplied trillions of times, Brahmananda cannot equal a particle of bhakti's bliss. The two, which is bhukti and mukti, as long as we are under their spell, pure devotion is impossible. In our Vaishnava vision, in the bhukti mentality, we think, I am the enjoyer. And this is illusion because the material world is temporary and full of miseries. And with the mukti mentality, we think, I will be free for my own sake. And this is still selfish. The Vaishnava mentality is that nothing is mine, everything belongs to Krishna and is meant for his service. We hear from the prayers of many pure devotees in the Srimad Bhagavatam, such as Prahlad Maharaj, Maharaj Prithu, and even Vritra Asura in Canto 6. They do not desire liberation, even in the greatest sufferings. They only desire service and devotee association. And Krishna confirms this in the Uddhava Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, chapter 20, text 34. Even if I offer them liberation, my devotees don't accept it. So the lesson we hear is how pure devotion is service without selfish desire in any condition. In trying to enjoy this material world, ultimately, we are left feeling unfulfilled, having gone through some stress working so hard to try to get something that really hasn't made us fulfilled anyway. Even if we get the desire fulfilled, we automatically desire more, and this goes on in a never-ending cycle. And in illusion, the stress of working so hard is actually taken for happiness. If one were to work overtime for a workplace that they go to, based off of that company as making statements as if we are a community and all the members of the workplace need to put in more hours for the good of everyone, or maybe that company is even threatening that if you don't do this work, we will fire you. The harsh reality of life is that even if this person at their work was to drop dead tomorrow, the ad for hiring in that company will be in the paper before his funeral is even over. We do not need to work beyond a certain amount. There is much more to life. That is the illusion either way. Working hard because you want to, or working hard out of fear. We need to prioritize spiritual life. There are many gyanis or sannyasis who, after taking sannyas and giving up the world as false, return to the world to engage in politics or philanthropy, or to open schools and hospitals. So this also means that the path of Gyan is not a permanent position either. They still come back to the material platform to engage in philanthropic activity. Thus, again, they cultivate desires, and when these desires are exhausted, they desire something different. And so either in the material world or in the impersonalistic path, it's still a never-ending cycle of desires being fulfilled, and they're never exhausted, and there's always a new desire. The yogis desire praise, and they misuse their mystic powers, and they're very susceptible also to falling down again to the material platform. And so we are advised to follow the peace platform as stated in Bhagavad Gita 5:29. One can actually attain peace when he knows Krishna. And if a person knows these three things about Krishna, they can actually become peaceful. 1. Throughout the entire universe, Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and beneficiary of all kinds of sacrifices, penances, and austerities, which should be performed only to attain his devotional service. 2. Krishna is the supreme being and thus the proprietor of all material worlds. 3. Krishna is the only friend who can actually do good to all living entities. Such a devotee is completely protected by the Supreme. He simply depends on Krishna just as a child depends on his parents. The child does not know how to expect services from his parents, but he is always protected nevertheless. This is called nishkam, or desirelessness. And with that, I would like to end this summary. Thank you for giving